After months of bloodshed in Tigray, a region of Ethiopia claiming the right of self-determination, the United States is ramping up pressure to end hostilities, protect civilians, facilitate an independent investigation of atrocities and permit humanitarian access to a starving population. In a call to Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali on March the 2nd, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken repeated his call for the immediate withdrawal of all Eritrean troops from Tigray that are operating there as part of the Ethiopian effort to quash the rebellion. The last point is emerging as central demand since most of the crimes in Tigray documented by journalists and human rights groups were carried out by Eritrean forces. We're now joined by an activist based in the US, Edward Dawana, who will hopefully shed some light on what's going on and let us understand the situation out there in Tigray. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Just to briefly, as usual, when we come into these sort of situations, especially with the news, we find ourselves usually in the middle of things, and people forget to look back and go, well, how did this all start? If you wouldn't mind, just briefly for our viewers and for myself, just give us a brief history of how this sort of conflict kind of started, please.
Thank you. Well, first of all, as we know that the TPLF force that was dominating Ethiopia for the last 27 so years were disposed by popular uprising throughout the country that rejected its rules, its way of governing, and that power lost power in 2018. And since then, there has been a reform government in power that is trying to saturate situations and bring true governance, a positive way of going forward. The group that was disposed from power, the TPLF, have left the capital and went to the Tigray region, which they happen to represent and fight for, and has been there for quite a time. And Ethiopia was supposed to have an election last June of 2020. However, due to the COVID, the pandemic was great, and there's an inadequacy for the government to protect and make sure that people were remaining healthy and whatnot. The government, in agreement to the parliament and also the opposition party in the country, agreed to extend the time for the election. However, this group, the TPLF that left power, that was forced out, that was kicked out by the popular uprising in the country, refused to accept that the change government that came to power, this proposal to extend the election time. Therefore, they went without approval of the Ethiopian National Board election and held their own regional election, which built up a tension. They were pretty much disobedient to the constitution. They were pretty much disputing the government in power that was reformed. So there was this animosity that built up that led to become rebellious. In the process, they engaged and equipped themselves for a battleground. They empowered themselves, and they were pretty much for the last 2 years, they were getting ready to fight. They were ready to take the country down because they left power. Keep in mind, this is the government, was the military force that dominated the economic sector, the politics, every sector of the government through means of force. They have created heinous crime for the last 27 years. They refuse to accept that they were pushed out. They refuse to accept change has come to Ethiopia. This is the result that prepped them to come to this end. And last November is pretty much when they went and head on with the Ethiopian Defense Force and attacked the government force that was the Northern Command that's based in Tigray, that has been there protecting the people for so long. And that created a conflict. And that's where the war started. And as a result, the transitional government, Abiy's government, and start to defend the constitution, defend the country, defend its forces. And as a result, a war broke between the two groups, the sitting government, the reformist government, versus the TPLF military group that's supposed to represent Tigray. So the Tigrayans, the TPLF, refused to live the environment that is where people were living. They refused to walk away from the city. So the war took place, and now we are in this crisis. Even though the war has declared to end, what we have right now, it is not actual conventional war. It is more of a guerrilla-oriented war in which pretty much in different pockets that the TPLF loyalists and TPLF remaining force continue to attack scientists and bring more crisis This is what's happening right now.
I understand. I mean, up until last week, we had a guest last week talking about this very subject, and up until last week, both sides had actually said that there wasn't actually even they said there wasn't a war going on. They denied it, which was shocking to hear, really, especially when we see the pictures and the videos that's going on. But have both sides now actually said, look, we know there's something, that we do have a problem that's going on right now. Are they actually both getting humanitarian aid to these people?
Fortunately, it is very, very painful that war has come to this. And nobody wanted war in that region. That region had experienced war numerous times throughout history. And unfortunately, this is the result of war. Bad things happen. Humanitarian crisis is needed, definitely. The Tigrayan people are by far the people that are suffering right now. However, even though the war has been declared as a victory for the government side, the rebel continue to struggle and continue to cause more damage. However, as far as humanitarian aid goes, I believe the government is doing all it can to assist the needy people, because at the end of the day, war can go two sides. It can end peacefully, or it will get more worse as it goes on. But at this point, I think the government has mobilized forces and resources to help Tigrayans rebuild, rehabilitate, and deliver assistance. However, that is not enough. Enough has not been done. And in order to deliver this assistance to the region, the situation on the ground must be permitting. And what we have right now is the guerrillas going around causing more chaos. And one thing that I would like to light on this matter is that because in the 1980s, this TPLF group, where they were resisting or fighting against the Derg regime.
Are the United Nations security forces, or the United States even, or any external forces helping? Are they coming in to help? Do we need them to come in and help?
Yes, actually, they so far it has been just talk. Talk is not that important for the mother that are suffering, for the kids that are dying due to food shortage or the war that's taking place. We need to act more than just talking, because the people are in need of help. However, I wanted to highlight, as I mentioned earlier, that this TPLF force were the group that was resisting against the Derg regime in the 1980s, that was utilizing a fund that was supposed to aid the needy ones into financing wars and buying machinery weapons. Therefore, not aiding is very important. However, how the aid goes into the people is very, very important, because this group that are right now fighting, as a guerrilla fighting throughout the region in Tigray, is pretty much applying this war or exploiting this war, the famine, the chaos, all this to just commodify the war. The war is there. During war, bad things happen. However, when we go to assist the needy ones, we need to make sure that the fund, the resource is used to the right extent. Exactly. And that is very important. Yeah. And for America to preach peace and democracy and also fight injustice is not necessarily talking, but acting. To act, one must understand when to take place. By the way, the TPLF are the force that the United States has been emboldening for so long. For the last 27 years, the U.S. was supporting this government while it was on power. This needs to be understood. So what happened today is pretty much it is someone that they have emboldened to come to this end. And this force right now, it is working day and night to destabilize the country and bring absolute chaos. And this is not interest of the United States. And the U.S. also need to be mindful of what's taking place on the ground. In order to know and to act, one must learn what's going on detailed. And one thing that I've noticed that so far is that even though bad things have happened, genocide and Humara and Makaidra and as well as Aksum, all these things are a result of war. War was not needed to begin with, but it has happened. And now what's next? Not talking, but acting. Assisting means getting in the ground. To get in the ground, the U.S. or any other countries need to work with the government, making sure that this is delivered. This is what needs to happen. Talk is not that big of a deal. We need to act, and to act means to do what is right. You're
absolutely right, and very, very well. Thank you for informing us about the alliance of the U.S. and the TPLF. That's really informative. We really appreciate that. So, are we getting people? I mean, how about the United Nations with the humanitarian aid? I know that there's a talk, but are they acting? Are they able to get through to the people that need this the most?
That has been a very hot topic at this point, actually. There are safety concerns. Humanitarians cannot just go around assisting when people are needed. People are all over scattered. They're not even in the city. They are in the mountains. They're
Right.
all over. But safety is a concern. However, I think this week or the end of last week, the Ethiopian government has put up, I think, a press that welcomes international media to come in to investigate, to learn what's going on, to also come and assist. Because assisting, door is open to any country or power to come and assist the needy ones.
Yeah.
And Ethiopian government is not that rich and super powerful and need to be assisted. However, to do this means to come and to understand and to work with authority on the ground.
Yeah.
You cannot just sit back and talk and not deliver. So the door is open. I think the United Nations are already there. They are doing their best, but safety is still a concern for every party involved.
And you know what? We have we have COVID problems all around the world. How is it there? There must be terrible. I mean, are they getting some sort of vaccination? Is any vaccination getting to them?
To be honest, it is very troubling. I have no detailed information in that regard. The COVID is everywhere, of course, no question. But I'm sure the government has promoted a safety way of living, a safety practicing, how to maintain oneself from getting sick and from spraying, pretty much wear a mask, even though we happen to see a lot of events gathering people that are not wearing masks. But there's here and there shortage. We see that here in the U.S. as well. However, I mean, that's a global challenge, not necessarily only to Ethiopia, but pretty much to the whole humanity.
Yeah, I'm absolutely devastated about hearing all the news that's going on right now in Tigray. We really, truly hope that as soon as possible, peace is found and we get to a place where there's tranquility and these murders and these massacres end. Edward Dawana, as always, a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.